All right, here we go. Ralph McDaniels.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Welcome to Vlad TV.
Hey, man, it's been a long time, man. You know I love what you do, man, and everything that you're doing is incredible. So, for all the haters out there, look, just send Vlad an email if you don't like it. Don't, stop trolling him on the internet, man.
Hey, man, that means so much coming from yourself. To get a compliment from the originator of this whole genre.
Thank you.
To what I just started doing, 10 years ago. I'm humbled right now.
Well, I remember me and you had a conversation at BB King's backstage. And I said, I love what you do. I said, just cut the fights out with the kids after school, man. I don't like that part of it, but I love everything else.
Well, and we've cut the fights out from the kids after school.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
If you look at the site, you don't really see very much of that type of nonsense anymore.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
As a brand, you mature over time. You start off doing one thing, and as it gets bigger and more serious, you have to focus on the more serious topics and give up some of that short-term, money and views and whatever to, protect your brand.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you as well. You are, when I say you're the originator of this genre, like I'm not over exaggerating here. Like, you were doing this before hip hop was really on television at all. And television, video, whatever you want to call it, you brought the visual aspect to hip hop when it just didn't exist.
Yeah, no, we did. We started in 1983. I had a camera, a big giant camera, and some lights, and I would go in a club and record performances and dances, and that was the first time people saw some of these artists. They heard their music on the radio, maybe late night, on the radio stations that were playing it, but it really wasn't out there like that. The music wasn't out there like that. It had to be put out there in a good way.
No, absolutely. And as I was going through my notes and the research on this, you were doing this before Yo MTV Raps.
Yeah. We started in '83. MTV really didn't exist in New York anyway. It was like an idea that came out of cable TV, and nobody had cable. You had to have money to have cable. So the majority, 95% of New York didn't have cable in 1983. And then eventually, in 1986, about 1987, I went to MTV and said, yo, you should do a hip hop, show. Because by that time now, Run DMC's popping, Eric B and Rakim is popping. You got a bunch of groups that's, kind of proving the point, it's happening. But they weren't ready. And then in 1988, they came with Yo MTV Raps.
Right, with Fab Five Freddy originally.
Yep, Fab, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember when I was like in elementary school, all the kids were talking about, yo, did you see that Thriller music video, the Michael Jackson Thriller video?
Yeah.
And I had to lie and say that I did because my parents were too poor to afford cable, so we didn't have MTV.
Yeah.
And you couldn't watch it anywhere else. And, as big as music videos are, you have to understand that during the 80s, it was just non-existent.
Right.
It was a very small niche. There was, then little channels popped up like Night Flight and Radio 1990 and stuff like that. But you were actually there well before all that. Like, why did you get the idea to actually start, showing hip hop videos and actually interviewing the artists?
Well, I started out as a DJ. I DJ'd in the parks. I DJ'd in clubs in Queens and Brooklyn and Manhattan, and and I knew the music, so I knew some of the artists. Especially some of the hip hop artists. And Russell Simmons was a promoter that grew up in my neighborhood. This is before Def Jam. This is before Rush Management or anything like that. He was just a guy giving parties, and he would put me on to certain stuff. He was also a record guy. He would come and bring you records, bring you like 12-inch vinyl. And that's where I got, kind of connected to what the industry was all about. And then I went to college and, graduated, started working at a TV station. And all of a sudden one day these videos came in. They weren't really videos, they were just performances of artists in a studio with 3 cameras. And I was like, what is this? And it was like R&B stuff. And I put together like a little, concept of what would be a video show and put these things together. and took a little while because people didn't know what this was. It didn't exist, other than Soul Train and American Bandstand and some of those other shows that you might have mentioned. There wasn't anything for hip hop and R&B, that's for sure. And then eventually, 1983, boom, they say, okay, we want to do it. Let's put the show on, and can you come on every day? And I said, yeah, I can come on every day. I didn't know what that meant to do a show every day, but we did. After school, 3:30, 4:30, and we rocked out.
Okay, so you're doing this show, and like, who are some of the really early artists that you were featuring?
I mean, like I said, it's limited in the amount of hip hop stuff. Hip hop is like, like Eric B. and Rakim, Run DMC, Houdini, Fat Boys, Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5, and so you're trying to figure that out. Then you have all this R&B 80s stuff, which is good. Luther Vandross, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, quite obviously, Prince. So you have enough music there to make it pop. And that's really what the 80s was all about. It sounded like that. Hip hop was just a force that was rising and it was beginning to move. And then we played some rock stuff. We played a lot of rock. I played Bruce Springsteen on the show. I remember one day I met Jon Bon Jovi and he said, yo, I remember you first time you played my video. And I was like, you saw my, she said, yo, Ralph, I'm from New Jersey. I watch Video Music Box. And I was like, you're killing me right now, John. You are killing me right now. So, so that was the impact of Video Music Box. It wasn't just about hip hop then. It was about all groups, from all genres to Latin music, to Celia Cruz, I was playing that, to Fania All-Stars, I was playing that, because that's what New York to me sounded like in the 80s. It was not just a hip hop thing. Hip hop had the movement and that's where it was going.
Well, yeah, and back then, hip hop and rock were a lot closer together, because if you look at the early Run DMC records, the early LL Cool J records, all the Rick Rubin stuff, he was a rock guy and ended up being primarily a rock guy after he left Def Jam.
Yeah, but that was because Rick was a rock guy. But hip hop really only with Run DMC did you see that, because most of the early hip hop was R&B sounding records. Like you listen to Curtis Blow, and you listen to Starsky records, and even some of that Sugar Hill stuff, they sounded like R&B records because that was the music that was playing, that we were sampling or cutting up in the club. It wasn't till Run DMC came that rock really kicked in. But don't get me wrong, Flash and Theodore and Bambaataa and all of those cats were playing rock breaks. You know about the break beats.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The Billy Squires and all that type of thing. Absolutely. As a DJ, yeah, you have to know all about that. Okay, so you're doing your show, and it's become a staple. And I was on the West Coast, so I never really caught wind of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, my first hip hop on TV moment was Yo MTV Raps.
Got you.
When that came around originally with Fab Five Freddy, how did that change things from your perspective?
I thought it was dope because by '88 I was directing. Me and my partner Lionel Martin were directing a lot of videos. We were doing all of the Cold Chillin' stuff, all of that Biz Markie, all of those Kane videos, Coogee Rap videos, MC Shan, Roxanne Shante, which I produced her movie this year. So we were doing all of this stuff, and now it was getting played outside of certain pockets like New York and San Francisco. Now in one swipe, you could go on Yo MTV Raps and watch our work. So I thought it was great. Now my friends were like, yo, it's competition now, what you doing? And I looked at it like, it's not competition. It's really good for the culture, and it has to happen, and I knew it was gonna happen. I wish that I could have done it. I did take it there first, but hey, it is what it is.